Okay, get a lot of this about this metaphysics and are there absolute truths? It seems like Kevin Soloway is getting at, okay, my memory is not accurate. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the fact that I'm having it is absolute. I don't believe it's absolute. It's certainly not direct. But let me try this to respond through a comment of Cashify's. He's fond of saying that the change is an illusion. And see, to me, this shows the whole situation. The only way to say that change is an illusion is to assume that change means a particular thing, okay, and then to find out that it isn't that particular thing. But in reality, the way I define change, you come from existence. Existence has a simple definition in my system. Okay, I exist as this thing that has some part uh, of this stream of experiences. I'm the subject. I'm the seat of that stream of experiences in some sense. I hedge on describing it in words because it's difficult to do so without assuming that you're the one acting or that you're not the one acting or things like this. And really, we don't know those things. And change has to do with the characteristic of these perceptions seeming to come in some sort of series and seeming to have identifiable similarities where parts are changing. That is change, okay? Change is just the word I give to that phenomena. I've named this phenomena. There is a thing that can be labeled change. Now, if I assume that there's real things out there and they're changing, well, yeah, there's ways for that to be false. For example, the determinists would have us believe that, basically that everything's this four-dimensional object. Its future is just as determined and set as its present, in which case it would be a big four-dimensional shape. And for some reason, we're getting this three-dimensional cross-section traveling at what appears to be a steady, rate. And so what appears to be genuine change is really just our position, our cross section. But see, there is still be change. The where the cross section is at is changing. But even if that isn't, and it's some still more confusing thing that we wouldn't think of as change, that's all because we're making assumptions about what it is. The phenomena called change still exists. It's still, and this is the issue with existence. I exist. Anything that interacts with me exists. Change therefore exists. And the question is, what does it exist as? What it's like? And you're just explaining that to say that there is no change. It doesn't matter because you'd still have to explain why it appears to be. There's something to explain this appearance. Is it exactly as it seems? No. Nothing is exactly as it seems right off. You get more and more information. You zero in on what it seems like. And I don't think you ever arrive at that. And this, I think, is a little bit about what Kevin and Thou Art That are getting at. That there's these internal necessities, that we are a reflection of a law of physics, and so we can get something of the law of physics just from the way we are and the way our experience is. But there's a big fundamental difference between saying something that has some interpretation to it or just naming a phenomena. See, change is possible to name a phenomena of the perceptions, change, and then say, well, and how's it really behaving? So you're getting a hold of the fact that, yeah, change is possible in the universe. Maybe change is some sort of an illusion. Maybe change is some sort of this or that or the other. But there's a phenomena there that can be named. It's quite different, something like the law of identity, when you say that it's not just a phenomena of your processing being named, but it somehow exists in the real world. And see, the fact that we know it's possible for change to exist is doesn't mean that it's fundamental, it exists for everybody. Because if I want to state that as an absolute, then okay, everything's changing. Well, I don't know. If there's a photon changing when it's in flight, it looks like it's changing position, but there's this weird time warp thing going on. I just don't know, and I can't assume just because it's happening to me that that's the way it would happen for everybody. And when we want to make the possibility an absolute, I think there's an inherent contradiction there to say, like, well, it's absolute that there's a possibility of experiencing change because I do. Because you're talking about a possibility. To me, there's a very straightforward contradiction. It's like trying to say that you have an approximation. The approximation is absolute. It's an approximation. In its nature, there's a wiggle room. It's not absolute. But but the other problem is, no, I don't know that it's a possibility, a universal possibility, because that means that it have to be true in all frames of reference. You know, in another 30 billion years, maybe the energy of the universe is dissipated and it's literally no longer possible to have a perceptive process. And for it to be absolute, it would have to be true in all frames of reference, future, past, here, there. Okay, so so that's what I'm talking about. I mean, in my system, there isn't this ontological problem. You know, like thou art that saying, well, I'm not dancing with just a bunch of blob of colors. I'm dancing with the woman. Yes, you have named a phenomena something. You know, but to say that that makes that a fundamental reality, the fact that you are able to reliably apply this idea that you've named, can't possibly make that like a fundamental reality that's true from all points of view, from all universes which may or may not interact with you, from all uninteracted with things, because you don't share any energy back and forth. You know, I strongly believe this idea, this cone of reality idea, that things that are even just far enough away from you or in some other physical form, you know, with some other kinds of matter or something, if they can't interact with you, I don't know that I can say they exist. And that they still might exist in some sense. They could for themselves exist. But I think that quantum mechanics shows this, because, you know, to have some lockdown reality, you have to share photons, you know, and we do with everything on Earth. You know, I was just looking at the moon the other night. It was half moon, and the dark side of the moon, the, you know, not the dark side away from the Earth, but the part that wasn't lit, you know, I could see it really clearly. What's that? That's the Earth shine. The sunlight's going to the Earth, bouncing off the dark side of the moon and back to Earth. So, you know, there's people out in the sunlit part of the Earth. The sun's coming down. It could hit them, you know, heat them up. They're lying on a beach. And then they radiate a photon. It goes up to the moon, hits the moon. Well, that wouldn't be a visible one, but, you know, it could just be regular optical reflected light. And it comes back to me. And that interchange, the fact that that photon and that energy was transferred through all of these bodies, connects us. Okay? So there's sort of a physical reality through this connection with even everything on Earth. You know, the oxygen you exhale is going all over the world. Okay? But if you have somebody that totally can't interact with you, I don't know that the meaning of existence covers it. I believe in a relative meaning of existence. I mean, it doesn't exist for you, and I don't mean your conscious mind, but literally there's no physical interactions of material, of a material sort. Then again, I can't say that that exists absolutely. So that means that even though I see this exists, it doesn't mean that from some other point of view that is interacting with it, that it's not in some superposition, and it doesn't exist here absolutely, it's over here, or it doesn't exist at all. And I know that seems weird, but this is what comes out from a relativistic view of nature, which is becoming more and more physically justified.